Hello and welcome back to a Method to the Madness Breaking Bad edition. I'm your host Patrick. Joining me as always is Mitchie.
Hello.
And this week we are talking about Breaking Bad Season 4 Episode 2. What's it called? 38 Snub, referencing the gun he buys at the beginning.
Yeah.
So this is just another episode, another weekly episode. Nothing out of the ordinary about this one. No time lapses or anything happened in between.
Yeah, it hasn't been it's just over 6 months, actually, since we last uploaded, so...
We might be a bit rusty.
Yeah, that's all right.
Nah, I'll see how we go.
To the one person that listens.
Nah. I'm in denial about that. Don't mention that. All right. What do we do first? Plot?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Let's go for it.
So, during a pre-credit sequence, Walter purchased a revolver from a black market gun dealer. When the gun dealer asks why Walter needs a gun, he insists it is strictly for self-defense. Meanwhile, Jesse has purchased expensive gadgets like a sophisticated sound system and the Roomba robotic vacuum cleaner, but remains miserable after having murdered Gale to save Walter and himself. After his friends Badger and Skinny Pete visit, Jesse has them arrange a wild party with dozens of people dancing, drinking, and doing drugs to further distract himself. Yeah, sorry for the shit summary. That's not our fault. It's Wikipedia's fault because we're really creative and
it's not our fault for being too lazy to write a plot summary.
Yeah. Look,
right.
This episode, I feel like not much happens, and that's fair enough because it's the aftermath of a really fucking intense episode. So just as a reminder for myself, last episode was the box cutter one, right, where Gus just brutally murders Victor.
Right. Yeah, so this episode starts with Walter buying a pistol from this friendly gun merchant who apparently gives
a revolver.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, this gun salesman dude, he appears like a couple of times throughout the series. And he's so friendly, he's so polite.
Yeah.
He actually tries to give Walter good advice. Just one of the very many like weird juxtapositions and characters that you see. And he advises Walter, because Walter notices that the serial number's been filed off, and he's like, to state the obvious, I don't want to get caught with this on me. And then he advises Walter to maybe stay within the confines of the law if he's purchasing a gun purely out of self-defense. Mm-hmm. And then we gonna get a sense that Walter's like what sort of deluded himself into somewhat believing that, and he's like, yeah, definitely, it's absolutely defense, which it kind of is. Like, you know, at this stage, Gus hasn't explicitly threatened to kill him, but obviously, you know, it's a bit more nuanced than that, the situation he's in. But yeah, I don't know, like, you see Walter, I don't know, really turning into a killer, like, oh wait, is it this episode? No, I think it's next episode. At the beginning, you see Walter, he's like, he's getting some coffee from that machine that Gale built, and he like kind of smiles a bit as if he's like proud of, you know, his plan working out.
Okay, I have a different opinion on that, but that's for the next podcast. Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, anyway.
I do really like the opening scene too, because it gets into the law, and I haven't really watched Better Call Saul, but I feel like that's what it's going to be like. Like, how he's kind of stating, like, oh yeah, in New Mexico, it's okay if you kill someone in self-defense. You have every right to do that, you know? Yeah. And I thought it was just really interesting that this guy's so detailed, but it does it in a way that's actually really interesting to listen to.
Yeah. And yeah, just like, there's like these little embellishments of character where he's like, you know, some say it's a moral right, and I include myself in that class. Yeah. It is interesting.
That's just, that kind of shit is what makes Breaking Bad so good.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like little details like Skinny Pete just being randomly good at piano. Yeah. And then Jesse invites Skinny Pete and Badger to his place. This is like, you know, right after he's become a murderer for the first time. And yeah, we start to see some changes occurring in Jesse. First of all, he has that new sound system, and he's like telling him all about like the engineering behind, you know, like the specs of the speakers and whatnot. Yeah. And he's going real into detail, and then Skinny Pete and Badger just looking at the lights, and he's like, oh man, I just kind of want to stare at the lights. And I felt him. Yeah. I was like, I'm with him. I'm with Skinny Pete there. Yeah, I don't know. Just that's an interesting quirk of Jesse, adopting sort of Walt's interests in like science and chemistry and shit like that.
Yeah.
And then he offers them like meth, and it's so sad. Like, man, at first Skinny Pete's like, no, I'm trying to get clean, and then it just cuts to them high. But yeah, it's pretty tragic to see now that like Jesse is the one being a bad influence, because like I feel like at the beginning of the series it was his friends, but like now it's him.
Yeah. He's trying to adopt that kind of bad character personality.
Exactly. Yeah, he thinks of himself as the bad guy now, so he's just gone really into it. And then I love how it just. So that conversation it cuts to when they're high, they're talking about zombies. At first it seems like they're talking about who's the hottest female zombie, but then it just kind of transitions to like them talking about the best zombie game in general. It's a weird conversation, and then they bring up COD zombies, which we know a bit about.
Then that's like the first and only reference I think we'll get in the series.
Yeah, and then Pete has a really good line where he's like, I don't know, like Badger's trying to justify why Nazi zombies are like cooler, and he's like, man, what difference does it make what job they had when they was living?
If I feel like it, I don't know what it's like to have a conversation high on meth, but I feel like that's what it would be like.
Oh yeah, the actor for Skinny Pete is so good at acting like high, like the way he's like stretching, like doing that stretch where you put your arms out in front of you and like interlock your fingers and like that stretch.
Yeah.
Whereas Badger, I feel like that actor doesn't have that kind of experience, which I feel like may be a good thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Unless you got anything.
No, I got barely anything from this episode.
All right,
let's go. Later, while cooking meth at their lab, Walter waits for Gus to arrive so he can kill him. Instead, Victor's replacement, Tyrus, arrives with Mike, who informs Walter he will never see Gus again. That night, Walter drives to Gus's house and approaches with the gun. But before he can cross the street, Walter receives a call from Tyrus, who simply...
What, isn't it? Doesn't he receive a call from Mike?
It's actually pretty ambiguous. You can't... I thought so too, but it doesn't actually sound like him.
Oh, okay. I always thought it was Mike.
Yeah, me too. That night, Walter drives to Gus's house and approaches with the gun, but before he can cross the street, Walter receives a call from Tyrus, who says simply, go home, Walter. The next day, Walter approaches Mike at the bar. Walter suggests he and Mike are in the same danger, and Gus could easily kill Mike the same way he killed Victor. This visibly unnerves Mike, who appears to be aware of this. Walter asks that Mike get him in a room with Gus so he can kill him. In response, Mike punches Walter, knocking him to the floor, kicks him in the torso a few times. Like, fucking hell. In response, Mike beats up Walter and leaves the bar.
Is the writer for Wikipedia like on? Does he have a word count that he needs to reach or something? Like,
you get more like Wikipedia credits or some shit if you write more.
Yeah. Is there a Wikipedia like currency system that you get, a point system?
Yeah, like karma on Reddit.
Okay. All right. It looks like it talks about Hank and Marie stuff in the next paragraph. So yeah. Okay. So.
Tyrus.
Tyrus. How good of a character is Tyrus? He doesn't say anything.
I literally do not remember him at all. Like, I vaguely remember him. I have no idea what happens to him, so I'm interested in him. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly why he's interesting. Is because he's just nothing, but he's just such an intimidating presence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I like in the scene when Walter's sitting in the car and he's about to get up the nerve to walk up to Gus's house and shoot him. And it's playing like this really tense music, and then it becomes silent once he puts the hat on, as if to illustrate, like he gains a sense of calm when he becomes Heisenberg.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like really kind of, I don't know, illustrating that split personality that he's beginning to develop.
Yeah.
Which I really like.
Yeah.
And then the scene at the bar, when he talks with Mike, I really love this scene, man. First of all, like the shot composition, like when he first walks into the bar. And it's like an old western, so like him walking into a saloon. The sunlight is behind him.
Yeah, it's really bright. Yeah,
it's really good. And again, Walter demonstrating his intelligence, like what he says about like, oh, if it can happen to Victor, it can happen to all of us. Like you can see through the actor for Mike, his performance. You can see that what Walter is saying is getting to him.
Yeah.
And he like, yeah, man, it's really good. And Walter knows exactly what to say. And, you know, obviously what he's saying is making sense. And, you know, obviously Mike is in the later season, but like this relationship between Walter and Mike is really compelling to me. Like very, like two of like, you know, two criminals, but like Mike is just way more hardened, but Walter is smarter, and they just make such a good like like a duo. Like they complement each other in really nice ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah. What do you reckon Mike's thinking in this though? Like, I mean, he obviously acknowledges what Walt is saying and understands that he could be the next one like Victor, but why the fuck does he punch him then? Like,
well, because I assume that like, because Mike knows better than anyone that Gus has eyes and ears everywhere, and so it's the kind of thing where if he just leaves, you know, without seeming like he rejected that proposition from Walter, it could lead to Gus being suspicious of him.
Right, okay, fair enough, because he's assuming that he's listening.
Yeah.
Right, because I felt like it was more like, I don't know, like, I feel like Mike still has some loyalty to Gus. I don't really know, like, you know, I might be completely wrong, but, like, obviously Gus is a real clever bloke, right? And every time you seem to get him, you don't, and that's kind of what happens all the time with this bloke. And maybe Mike has had enough experience with Gus to realize that, like, everything he does has reason behind it too. And that's why he probably maybe realized that there was a reason why he killed Victor, which there was a reason why he killed Victor, right? Because Victor was seen at the crime scene. So maybe he's just punching Walter to say, like, you're ridiculous. And also, I still trust that Gus will do the right thing by me as long as I don't fuck up.
Right.
And accepts the reality of his job, which is that, yeah, if you do fuck up and get seen at a crime scene, that's it, you're finished. That's how Gus operates, you know, and he probably knows that.
Yeah,
so, I don't know.
I think that's pretty valid as well, yeah.
It's interesting. The ambiguity of like this kind of stuff is what makes it actually quite interesting, you know, Breaking Bad in general. Like, you just think about it, you know, like it's just so many bits that you're not sure about. And
yeah.
You're never really sure about with Mike, like, especially him, given his, like, what do you call it? Stoicness.
Right, yeah. The show sets up enough stuff about the characters where like a lot of things make sense, like a lot of different possibilities, but it's always like, you know, that like we're discussing right now, it's every sort of thing is equally plausible and it makes sense. Man, the show it's a masterpiece.
It is. It fucking is.
All right.
Alright.
Oh, sorry, one more thing. Important detail here: when Walter enters the bar, he gets the same drink as Mike, but without ice. And we've previously talked about how Walter starts adopting the habits of the people he kills. And this is later on, but in next season, he goes to Hank's house, and Hank is like, on the rocks, right? And Walter's like, yes, on the rocks. So he starts having drinks with ice, like Mike.
After he kills him.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
yeah.
Okay, that's okay. But did he always drink without ice before? Or maybe one of those dealers that he ran over with a car. Maybe they didn't drink with ice.
It's like a metaphysical thing. Like Walter just sucks their fucking.
He just knows.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he just sucks the knowledge out of their head.
Yeah, exactly. He just absorbs their fucking like preferences. All right.
Be interesting if he kills 007.
What? Why is that?
Well, you order a vodka martini, but shaken, not stirred.
Right.
Or is it the other way around? I don't know.
Shit. Shaken, not stirred. All right. Yeah.
Anyway, I'll move on. Skylar calls Walter to inquire about buying the car wash where Walter once worked, which they plan to use as a front business for Walter's drug money. Skylar approaches the car wash owner, Bogdan, about the proposed purchase, but he angrily rejects her, condemning Walter for having insulted Bogdan when he quit the car wash. Meanwhile, Marie continues struggling to deal with Hank's deepening depression as he copes with physical therapy from having been shot. The bedridden and bitter Hank constantly ignores or insults Marie, and even after celebrating a successful session with his physical therapist, he refuses to share any of that excitement with Marie. Meanwhile, after 3 straight days of partying, Jesse tries to keep hanging out with Badger and Skinny Pete, but they are exhausted and go home, along with all of the other guests in Jesse's house. alone with his thoughts, a depressed Jesse breaks down and cries, sitting less than an inch away from his speakers at an extremely high volume. Oh my god. I'm surprised there's not like a link to like hearing loss prevention or some shit, you know, with the amount of detail in this.
A link to...
I'm just not going to put that.
Link to sound waves.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. All right.
What
Starting
you got?
with the Hank and Marie stuff.
Yep.
Yeah,
poor
okay.
Marie.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I know. Hank's such an arsehole to her. But I mean, you know, this is where Hank is at the height of his depression, and he's resentful toward Marie for trying to be supportive, which is actually a very real thing. You know, it's only something that I've, you know, just through life that I recognize now, seeing this episode, and I was like, man, this show, man, just has such maturity and experience. You know, like Vince Gilligan and the other dude, Paul Good or something. Yeah, very well realized, and and then that scene where Marie's talking to Hank in the middle of the night, and then because you know Hank's like checking his minerals, and then he goes, Marie,
it just rocks.
Yeah, and then he goes, last I checked, Marie, there are 4 bedrooms in this house. And I think I've said this before, but this just keeps adding to my theory that Marie, or you know, but especially Marie, wanted to have kids, but they were unable to for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And and then you know, even next episode, she keeps making up stories. One of them is you know how she has a kid. I don't know, like that's something that's never explicitly stated in the series, but little details like that just keep sort of because. You know, I actually have family as well that have like a very big house with a lot of spare bedrooms, and they were unable to have kids, so that sort of resonates with me. Okay,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, when he said that, I just felt really sorry for her. I wasn't really thinking about that at all. But that's actually interesting that, you know, from your experience, you can kind of relate to that and it actually makes complete sense.
Yeah. And, you know, like, I don't know, I feel like, I mean, all aunties and uncles, you know, love their nephews and nieces, whatnot. But you know, Marie especially, you know, really loves the kids.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought that's a cool little detail. Okay.
Bogdan.
Yeah, dude, Bogdan, he's such an asshole, such a fucking asshole. Like, oh man,
but I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? How's he?
Yeah, sure, he's a fucking twat, but like. Walt never told him he had cancer, right? And then just fucking quit without notice. So I can kind of see, you know, from his like managerial shoes, like he kind of has a reason to be like that. Although he is very rude to Skylar, which is unjustified.
Yeah, he is really rude to Skylar. Which I feel like, and don't you get a shot of him like sort of berating one of his workers outside? He's like, "You're using too much wax."
Yeah. And he always used to do that to Walt too.
He's just one of those bosses, you know, like, I don't know, like, speaking from my experience, I know exactly that type of person. Just, like, real fucking, like, unnecessarily stingy, and, like, you know, just, like, I don't know, bringing back, it's traumatic memories for me.
Yeah, I feel like it's really building your hate against him, like, as the audience, you're meant to hate him, for next episode, what happens to him then. Which we can talk about then. Yeah.
And then, I guess last thing, and then Jesse... Oh yeah, it's revealed that the night Jesse had that confrontation with the 2 drug dealers, he gave Andrea a lot of money to get her and Brock out of the neighborhood. And then, so yeah, he protect, he attack, but most importantly, he make crack. You like that?
I do, but he doesn't actually make crack, so it was almost perfect.
Okay, and that's all I got.
I mean, I don't have much either, but man, I feel sorry for Jesse, and like, the guy's fucked. He's got like serious PTSD from killing Gail Bettiger, and that's fair enough. Like, but yeah, that's not good for your ears sitting in front of speakers like that.
It's not good for your health in general, taking meth.
I suppose. I don't know, which would you rather do? Would you rather snort some meth or sit in front of speakers like that are like thumping with the bass? You clearly it's fucking loud for like even 20 minutes.
Dude, that's actually like an irrational fear of mine, like being in a room trapped like with like ear deafening sound.
Oh, it'd be fucked.
Yeah, dude.
I'll take the meth any day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, me too. I think that was one of the torture methods they used in like Afghanistan and shit to Afghan prisoners. No. Yeah, how fucked is that?
That's fucked. Yeah. So basically, just make them deaf through really loud noise. That's
pretty
fucked.
much.
Anyway.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for listening, and join us next episode.
See ya.
Mike, do I have to come right out and say this? You and I, we're in the same boat.
Drink your drink.
If it happened to Victor, it could happen to you. And what the hell was that anyway? A message? He cuts a man's throat just to send a message.
You won, Walter. You got the job. Do yourself a favor and learn to take yes for an answer.
If you like this series, Mitch is going to tell you where you can find more of these.
Yep, so you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. And we've also got a website, amttm.com, where you can find our fabulous episodes on Breaking Bad.
If you have any questions, queries, insights, or criticism, you can send them to mail@amttm.com.
And as always, thank you for listening.